In my last video, I talked about how the phrase comme ci comme ça is grossly overused in French classes around the world and why that's a bit problematic. And in today's video, I'm going to show you what some of your options are when it comes to authentic French greetings. French isn't just a modern language, it's also a social practice, and unfortunately, that angle is often missing from language textbooks and apps. So I'm not going to just throw a bunch of greetings at you, I'm actually going to give you some tips along the way on how to pronounce them and when to use them. All right, let's get started. Okay, first you have to know the difference between formal greetings and informal greetings in French. You need to figure out which pronoun to use when talking to someone, and your two options are vous and tu. Vous is formal and tu is informal, and they both mean you in English. Both pronouns use sounds that don't exist in English, so I'll tell you how to pronounce them. First, the ou sound in vous is not the same as the double O in English. It's not the short ou of look, it's closer to the ou sound of Luke, but it's still not quite the same. I hear a lot of vous instead of vous from Anglophones, and that's usually because their tongue placement is incorrect. So in order to make an oo sound, you're gonna start with an O. Pay attention to where your tongue is, it's exactly where it needs to be, O. From here, you're gonna bring your lips closer together and tighten your lip muscles just like you would if you were about to whistle. O, vous, vous. The final S isn't pronounced just like most final consonants in French. For tu, the French U sound requires a different tongue placement. You're gonna start by making an E sound, and again, pay attention to where your tongue is, don't move it. Now, with your lips only, make a tight O shape. E-U. E-U. Make a no with your lips, but think E. E-U. E-U. That's a U sound. U, tu. U, tu. Now the French de sound is also different. Instead of tu, with an English accent, you're going to want to say tu. Can you hear the difference? Tu, tu. Tu, tu. In English, to make the t sound, the tip of your tongue touches your alveolar ridge. What's an alveolar ridge? It's that small protuberance behind your upper teeth that you touch every time you make a t sound. Now in French, to make a d sound, you're going to want to touch the back of your lower teeth with the tip of your tongue. Tu, 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 as opposed to tu, 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 with an English accent. Tu, 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 tu. And there you have it. Awesome. So when should you use vous and when should you use tu in French? You need to use vous in a formal situation that can involve meeting someone for the first time, especially if that person's older than you are, or higher up in the workplace hierarchy, or even at school, like a teacher or a professor. You're going to want to use vous with them. Also with someone who needs to know that you respect their job, like a bus driver or a cashier, people who work in the service industry. In general, using the pronoun vous creates some distance when there's a need for clear boundaries between you and someone else. Now, the subject pronoun tu can be used among friends or peers in an informal setting, like at a bar or at a party. Family members use tu as well, and in the workplace, co-workers can use tu if they're peers or if they know each other well enough. Tu is also the default pronoun that children use until they're 7 or 8 years old, simply because they don't know the difference between vous and tu yet. So they'll use the same pronoun they use with their parents, their family, which is tu, and that's completely normal. So tu gets rid of the distance that vous creates, but if you use it wrong or if you use it too soon with someone, people might think you're rude. So when in doubt, just use vous, that's your safest option, and then people will let you know if they want you to use tu with them. Alright, so what I did with the slides is I color-coded them, so you'll know when something is formal, it'll be red, and when something is informal, it'll be blue. Bonjour is pretty neutral, but you can make it formal by adding monsieur or madame afterwards. The funny thing about bonjour is that it's basically the first word that people learn in French, but it's also a hard word to pronounce because it uses sounds that don't exist in English, just like vous and tu, so we're going to go over them together. First of all, bonjour means a lot more than good day. Literally, bonjour means good day. It also means good morning because bon matin isn't a thing in French to say hi, and good afternoon because good afternoon isn't a greeting. When you say bon après-midi, literally good afternoon, you're basically not saying hi, you're saying bye to someone. It's the equivalent of have a good afternoon. Now, here's why the pronunciation of bonjour is a bit tricky. First, the nasal vowel on. Don't pronounce the N. The N only signals that the O is going to be nasalized. So you're going to start with a regular O sound and you're going to move that sound up into your nose, into your nasal cavity by letting some air come out of your nose as well as your mouth. And if you're doing it right, you can feel your nose vibrate. You're nasalizing the O. So O, on, O, on, O, on. The OU in bonjour is the same as the OU in vous. So again, make an O and then tighten your lips. OU. Bonjour. Bonjour. The last unusual sound in bonjour is the soft R at the end. It's a hard sound to make for a lot of people, but it doesn't have to be. I hear a lot of people, including native French speakers, who say that the R sound comes from your throat. And that's incorrect. It comes from the back of your mouth. If it were truly a guttural sound, it would sound like that's a guttural sound. So, bonjour. I don't know about that. Bonjour. I don't know if you want to gag when saying hi to someone. Basically what R is a dry gargle. So imagine you're gargling but without any liquid, and that's exactly where the R sound is located. And the tip of your tongue is down too, unlike for the English R, where the tip of your tongue is raised. So like I said, to make bonjour formal, very polite, you can add either madame or monsieur afterwards. Originally, madame meant my lady, madame. Notice that both A's are pronounced the same way. They're both strong A sounds, but the second one is stronger. It's longer because it's part of the stressed syllable, which is the last syllable when you say bonjour, madame. So it's stronger, longer. Bonjour, madame. The French A sound is in between the R of dad and the A of father. So A, madame. And the French de sound requires the same tongue placement as the French de sound. So the tip of your tongue touches the back of your lower teeth. Madame. Can you hear the difference between madame, madame, and in French, madame, madame? For the word monsieur, it's a contraction of what used to be monseigneur, my lord, and that turned into one word over time. And now the pronunciation is very irregular. Monsieur. Monsieur. The E sound is very French. So to make that sound, you're going to make an U sound first, and then you're going to want to open the space between your upper and your lower teeth just a bit more. Not your lips, just your teeth. So U, monsieur, monsieur. You can say bonjour to someone until the sun sets, and then you're going to have to say bonsoir. Bonsoir, good evening. The informal equivalent of bonjour is salut. It's like hi, but it's more colloquial. Again, the U sounds in that word, so start with an E, then write your lips into an O to make the U, then salut, and then don't pronounce the final T. Coucou is a very informal way to say hi, and it's also pretty affectionate, so it works great with friends, family members, and children. Do pronounce it coucou, not cuckoo, because cuckoo means something else. First, it refers to a child's booty, and it's also used to describe someone who's naive, a little bit of a dum-dum, or something that's cheesy. So you can say that a movie is cuckoo, like say cuckoo. But if you're trying to say hey there to someone, you want to say coucou, not cuckoo. Comment est-ce que vous vous appelez? Comment est-ce que vous vous appelez? Or just Comment vous vous appelez? This literally means how do you call yourself? And it's the most natural way to ask someone what their name is in terms of the sentence construction. Notice the liaison here. Comment vous vous appelez? Vous vous appelez? That's because appeler starts with the vowel and vous vous appelez flows better than vous vous appelez. French is meant to be a very fluid, wavy language, and liaisons are typically used as lubricant in between words to keep it that way. Usually students are taught inverted questions in French, which means the verb comes before the pronoun. Comment vous appelez-vous? Parlez-vous français? Voulez-vous coucher avec moi? You might have learned that, but inversions are actually very rare in conversations. That's formal written French, not modern spoken French. And for that very reason, you also want to drop the E in appeler to sound more natural. So you go from 3 syllables, comment vous vous appelez, to 2 syllables, appeler, appeler, appeler. Comment vous vous appelez, comment vous vous appelez. That's because the E sound is in between 2 consonants in this question, and in spoken French, the E gets dropped. Comment vous vous appelez. Your answers to the question, comment est-ce que vous vous appelez, comment vous vous appelez, or even vous vous appelez comment, can be je m'appelle or je suis. Je m'appelle sounds more natural than je m'appelle. Je m'appelle, if it's said slowly, sounds a bit awkward. It's basically the equivalent of saying, my name's Christelle, je m'appelle Christelle, as opposed to my name is Christelle, je m'appelle Christelle. Je m'appelle is also often mispronounced. I get a lot of je m'appelle, with a strong English accent, and the French sounds are ignored. The A in je m'appelle needs to be a strong A. It's not a E sound. It's je m'appelle. You know how in English you have the word Alabama, and the A's are pronounced differently depending on whether they're in a stressed syllable or not? So Alabama, it's either A or E. That's not a thing in French. The letter A is never pronounced E. The French B sound is also different from the English P sound. In English, it comes with an extra puff of air. P, P. You want to get rid of that puff of air in French. P, je m'appelle, je m'appelle. The P doesn't pop as much. It's softer. And finally, the L sound is different in English and in French. In English, the back of your tongue is raised. L, L. Whereas in French, you want the back of your tongue to be flat. L, L. Can you hear the difference between L and L? L, L. Je m'appelle, as opposed to je m'appelle. Your second option here to say your name is je suis, which has a bit more of an assertive, professional vibe to it. In spoken French, it's very common to hear suis instead of je suis. So again, the E gets dropped. It's a little bit hard to pronounce for foreigners. It's literally J'(S), so je suis. If it's too hard, you can actually turn the first 2 consonants, J and S, into a sh sound, SH, suis, suis. People might actually think you're a native speaker if you say it that way, suis, suis. And then et vous means how about you, literally and you. When you ask how about this, how about that, in French you can just replace how about with the conjunction et. Moi c'est, et toi? Now here's a pretty cool way of introducing yourself in a semi-casual setting. Just say moi c'est followed by your name. Literally, me, it's. It's less formal than je m'appelle. Je m'appelle is good for when you're going around a table or you're introducing yourself before a meeting or a talk. But moi c'est is probably more common. And et toi means how about you with the stressed pronoun toi, which means you in French. A lot of people say et tu in French, which is incorrect because tu is a subject pronoun. That means it needs to be connected to a verb, and there is no verb in the question how about you in French, et toi. So you need to use a stressed pronoun. How about me would be et moi, and how about you is et toi when it's informal. Comment tu t'appelles? Comment tu t'appelles? Tu t'appelles comment? Tu t'appelles comment? Comment tu t'appelles is the informal version of what's your name. Comment vous vous appelez? Again, people often learn comment t'appelles-tu in French textbooks with an inversion, but that makes no sense. There's no reason to combine an informal pronoun tu with a very formal sentence construction. It sounds completely off in modern French. You might encounter it in literary texts and in literary dialogues, but it's extremely rare in modern spoken French. Enchanté. Enchanté. Okay. Enchanté is a formal way of saying nice to meet you. It literally means enchanted, and it takes an extra E at the end if it's feminine. It's very strong, so if you don't really mean it, then maybe don't say it, otherwise it's a bit weird. Some possible replies to enchanté are moi aussi, me too, so am I. Pareillement. Pareillement is probably the one I would use if I were in that situation. Pareillement. The I followed by a double L is pronounced ya typically, and you want to drop the E because it's spoken, so pareillement, 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 3 syllables. And tout le plaisir est pour moi. Tout le plaisir est pour moi. All the pleasure is for me, all the pleasure is mine. Drop the E after tout le plaisir. Tout le plaisir est pour moi. Tout le plaisir est pour moi. Comment ça va, or just ça va, is a super standard question that works in both formal and informal situations. It can actually replace enchanté while meeting someone if you don't feel like being too formal. And of course, you can actually use it in basically any situation. I went with gold for this slide because it's very neutral conversational French. Ça va? Again, here both A's are strong A sounds, so it's not ça va, it's ça va. And the second one is longer because it's stressed. So ça va? Comment ça va? Ça va can be a yes-no question. It literally means, is it going? So you can say yes or no, oui or non. To answer comment ça va, how is it going, you might want to be a bit more specific, but you can also just say ça va. And it's all about the intonation. So ça va, ça va, ça va, ça va, ça va, ça va, ça va. Again, et vous, et toi, how about you? Both pronouns are stressed pronouns and they both mean you. Ça va bien, pas trop mal, pas terrible. So like I said, you can add something after ça va to be more specific, and these are some options. Ça va bien, or just bien, means you're doing well. Bien has a nasal vowel in it, so you don't want to pronounce that N. The sound is yen, yen. Ça va bien. Pas trop mal or pas mal means not too bad or not bad. It's very common. Notice the L is the only final consonant pronounced here. It's actually the equivalent of pretty good, pretty well in English, because the French love to downplay their positive emotions. So this can be considered a pretty positive answer. Pas terrible is actually a negative response. In this context, terrible means great. So you're not doing great. In most other contexts, terrible does mean terrible, just not here. And by the way, pas terrible would be a great alternative to comme ci comme ça. Well, it means the same thing. It's much more common, much more used. So this is your ultimate standalone French conversation. I just had to include it. You can often hear friends or coworkers greet each other that way. It's like a daily greeting ritual for some people. And it's all about the intonation. That's where the feelings are. So, ça va, ça va, ça va, ça va. Ça va, ça va, ça va, ça va. Tu vas bien? Tu vas bien is the informal equivalent of vous allez bien. It's friendly. It's also an intonation question, which means that it's your intonation that determines whether it's a question or a statement. Because if you say tu vas bien, you're just telling the other person they're doing well. So you need to go up at the end. Tu vas bien? Vous allez bien? Tu vas bien? That's an intonation question. Some of the answers can be ouais, which is the equivalent of yeah in French. Moi. Moi is the same as ouais, but with a negative connotation. It's the equivalent of meh. And both is used a million times more often than comme ci comme ça in French. So I encourage you to use it if that's what you're trying to say. It means you've had better days. It's also a good equivalent of meh in English. It's an extremely common interjection in French. You can describe a book, a movie, a meal with bof. C'est bof. You can even hear c'est bof bof sometimes. Extremely common. Do keep in mind that you can't say ça va bof. Okay, it needs to be used independently of ça va. You want to keep the O of buff open, as in off in English, because the word beauf with a closed O, like in story, means something entirely different. And so does buff, with the same sound as in bird. So the right pronunciation is boeuf, boeuf as in off. Ça peut aller or on fait aller are two other great alternatives to comme ci comme ça. They're just a little bit harder to pronounce. They are negative answers. If you say ça peut aller, on fait aller, you sound a bit depressed for sure. They both essentially mean I'm hanging in there. Careful with the pronunciation of ça peut aller. It's the same E sound as in monsieur. If ça peut aller or on fait aller are too tricky to pronounce, just go with boeuf. It's simple but completely relevant. Ravi d'avoir fait votre connaissance. Ravi d'avoir fait votre connaissance. If you want to say to someone it was nice meeting them after a conversation or a job interview, the formal way to do that is to say ravi d'avoir fait votre connaissance. Ravi d'avoir fait votre connaissance. The stress syllable here is the last one, sens. So ravi d'avoir fait votre connaissance. In spoken French, the re at the end of votre might disappear because it comes before a consonant, so you might not hear it at all, and that's okay. The te sound needs to be very soft, so ravi d'avoir fait votre connaissance, votre connaissance. It's a super considerate, validating thing to say, and it would actually be a great move to say that after a job interview to make a good impression. One possible response to ravi d'avoir fait votre connaissance could be le plaisir est partagé. The pleasure is shared. It's shared by me. Le plaisir est partagé. C'est cool de t'avoir rencontré. If you want to say it was nice meeting you in a more casual way, you can go with c'est cool de t'avoir rencontré. Literally, it's cool to have met you. The word cool was imported into French a long time ago. It's very common, but it's also pronounced with a French accent. So it's the same ou sound as in vous and bonjour, and it's the same l sound as in je m'appelle. So the back of your tongue is flat. C'est cool de t'avoir rencontré. Now, a lot of Anglophones struggle with the word rencontrer. They often say rencontrer or rencontrer, but it's really rencontrer with two nasal vowels, en, on. So rencontrer. And the tre is longer than the other syllables because that's where the stress is. So c'est cool de t'avoir rencontré. And you also want to add an extra E if the person you're talking to identifies as female. One possible response to c'est cool de t'avoir rencontré could be grave. Grave is extremely common, super informal, and it's the equivalent of totally in English conversations. Grave. Alright, so the main takeaway here, since I said mean things about comme ci comme ça in my last video, is that you do have much better alternatives in French. Instead of comme ci comme ça, you can easily say bof, pas terrible, on fait aller, ça peut aller, and people won't think it's weird, unlike with comme ci comme ça. Or you can also just say ça va with a neutral tone to avoid making things weird, especially if you're talking to a stranger, because like I said in that video on comme ci comme ça, I'll put the link in the description, comment ça va is typically not a real question. If you remember only half of these greetings, you'll be in really good shape. You'll probably know more than a majority of students who are taking French right now. That's because greetings are usually only touched on in introductory level classes, and then they never really get revisited. So they remain very basic in classroom interactions. The more mindful you are of the other person's cultural difference and individuality, the better your connection can be, the more genuine it's gonna feel. Do let me know in the comments if you have any questions. Again, these greetings can be downloaded for free as a PDF guide. I'll put the link in the description. To complete this list, in my next video, I'll be showing 20 different ways of saying goodbye in conversational French. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe to help this channel grow, and I'll see you next time.